Alright, so we're gonna actually pick up where we would have left off yesterday. Of course, the class would have ended prematurely because of the constant outage of electricity back my side. Right, the electricity actually went, so that's why the class ended prematurely yesterday. So in terms of the notes, I would have posed the im- picture version in WhatsApp. So in terms of the discussion, I'm gonna continue with it, and then of course students can make their own notes. The class population kind of small this morning. I'm not seeing some of the students, just a few persons, just 4 persons online. All right, so in terms of the sources for water pollution, would have started the list in terms of different sources. In the image, where you are seeing what is known as municipal wastewater. So this is actually all of the water that would come, for example, from an entire city, like for example Portmore or any parish capital, any town area where you have a lot of businesses. That's why Mapping normally flood out, simply because within those town areas they don't dispose the garbage properly, hence it lead to flooding, which of course can cause harm to drinking water source if there is any within that particular region. So as for industrial waste, and industrial waste of course have to do with those factories. So what you're seeing now is basically some form of wastewater being let out into the sea, and of course that can be very dangerous for um, marine life. So those are like fish, shark, just about anything that lives in the water there. So as for the industrial waste, the major source of water pollution is the waste water discharge. So the word discharge means let out from industries and commercial bodies. These industries are chemical. Of course, these industries, they will actually produce some form of chemical, whether bleach, fertilizer. Those are the industries they are talking about. So the waste that come from these industries really toxic. Food processing industry also, textile, paper industry. All of those give off some form of discharge or waste that we would consider to be organic, and of course inorganic pollutants. Now they are saying that these wastes, they are good morning, Louis. I hope you're here. I hope you're having some better connection this morning. Right, so they are saying that these wastes, they are highly toxic. Now the word toxic mean poisonous, and toxic or poisonous to living beings or living things, and of course human would be included, and plants would also fall under that category in terms of living things. All right, so what we mean by inorganic pollutants, now these are things that are not natural. For example, the remains of animals or the remains of dead plant. Inorganic or non-organic mean like plastic, paper, bottles, um, metals. Those are what are known as inorganic pollutants. So they include the fine particles of different metals, different chlorides, sulfates, oxides or of iron, so acid, alkalines. So those are not natural, and those are actually as a result of what human being would have created. So that is why they are known as non-organic. Now the organic pollutants, now these of course are these of course normally comes from, for example, plants or animal. So these are called organic. The word organic mean that it must come from some form of living thing, whether it is animal or it is plant. So let's say for example you have somebody who own a farm, a poultry house or something to that effect. Hello?
Sir, me not hear you, sir.
Right. So let's say for example somebody will own a meat shop and that person basically do all the butchering. So the remainders of those animals, if they should throw it in the water, then that would be organic. So they are saying that things such as fats, such as oils, so those are remainders that would come from those living organisms. Those are what they call organic. Which organic pollutants are normally pollutants that can be broken down by microorganisms such as bacteria and for example fungus. The non-organic one cannot be broken down that easily. Like metals and plastic, those cannot be broken down by those microorganisms. So that's why I would refer to them as inorganic or non-organic waste. All right. As for agriculture, agriculture by non person should actually know the different things that the farmers normally use. So they use things like fertilizer, they use things like pesticides, they use things like insecticides. Now, let's say for example there is a farm land on a hillside, and down the bottom of that hillside you have a spring where persons get drinking water. Now, that's where these chemicals can be harmful because remember that the farmland is on the hillside, and on the bottom of the hill you actually have the spring. So that simply means that all of those chemicals will actually soak underground.
When the
And
rain fall, it's like be nice.
Higgins, I hear you saying something, but I'm not hearing it clearly. Right. So
Yeah, so when the rain fall, it will like chemical gone down and still.
right, exactly, right. So once it rains, then the chemical will actually soak underneath the ground and of course contaminate that drinking water source. Now, in terms of the volume of the chemical, because it is not so much, persons might not feel a definite effect right away, but of course it causes some form of harm to the human body. It might not be to the extent where it is detrimental, where the person will lose your life, but of course once you consume those chemicals, it's gonna cause some form of negative effect to the human body. But of course, at times it will not be noticeable. But if you constantly doing that over the years and consuming that water, then you can develop a known sickness. So it is just that with the human body, not that you're not seeing the evidence right away, don't necessarily mean that something is not affecting you. Something can affect you, yes, but it's just in a small way. It is just that with you having that knowledge, then of course, as best as possible, you would have to try and ensure that you don't actually contribute to that in terms of contaminating the water. All right, so marine pollution. Marine pollution is basically talking about pollution of the rivers, pollution of the sea. So they are saying that ocean are the final sink of all natural and man-made pollutants. Now, basically, you will realize that all rivers, all gullies basically lead to the sea. So that's why that first sentence is saying that everything that is natural and everything that is man-made in terms of pollutants, eventually they will actually go out to the sea because all different water sources basically linked to the sea. So rivers discharge their pollutants into the sea, and the sewage and garbage of coastal cities. What I mean by coastal cities are those cities that are near the shorelines. Like for example, Montego Bay is a coastal city. Understand? Because Montego Bay, the edge of it is at the border there. Negril, that's a coastal city. So once you have those cities that actually near to the shoreline, and as I would have said in previous class, that some hotels they are guilty of just letting out their waste into the sea due to the fact that they actually live in such a close proximity. So they are saying that other sources in terms of marine would be oils, grease, detergent, and radioactive waste from ship. Right, so some of the ships, especially the cruise ship, they are also guilty of this. Cause imagine you have a cruise ship cruising right around the world, actually going right around the world. Then sometime those ships they are guilty of dumping the waste in the ocean. In that it is much cheaper. It is much cheaper rather than them to actually when they dock at on land, they would actually have to get cesspool trucks and all those equipment to remove the all those waste from the ship. So once then they're way out in the sea whenever they are touring in terms of cruising, they have a tendency of dumping all those waste in the water. So those are some examples in terms of marine pollution, in terms of the marine. All right, so land pollution. And land pollution basically have to talk about pollution on the land. So the land itself. So it is really simple to differentiate the different types of pollution as to where they take place. So you have air pollution, you have water pollution, and now we have land pollution. So land pollution basically is when persons or individual do things that actually alters or change the natural earth environment. And, these sources in terms of these pollutants, they normally be as a result of human activities, and they are saying that in terms of we contributing to land pollution, it is because of our misuse of the land resources. So misuse mean that if you use something, you don't put it back at the right place, or if you use something and you finish with it, you just throw it anyway. Yes, you might throw it in the gully. You might throw it not in the gully. You will actually throw it in open lands, and those open lands once they are filled with garbage, then you know that can become a breeding space for mites and rats and roaches and all those things. So that is when we said that we actually misuse the land resources. So on the land, the garbage, we should dispose of them properly, and then whether you're gonna burn or whether you're gonna actually crush or some form of recycling, rather than just throwing it in any open space. So that's what they mean by misuse. And that's where they are saying that this normally occurs when waste is not disposed properly. Alright, they are saying now urbanization and industrialization are major causes of land pollution. Now, what we mean by urbanization is areas where, let's say, for example, the government is building up a whole lot of housing schemes. So, urbanization basically talking about an area, a space where there is a large amount of building there in terms of residents, so housing schemes. So, like in the Portmore region now, right after creating that. Right, yeah, thank you. Yes, so the government would have ensured that a whole lot of housing schemes were built in Portmore areas. Now they are coming in aspect of Clarendon and Old Harbour in terms of urbanizing the environment. So urbanization basically mean you have a whole housing development being done. And industrialization is talking about business now. Because you will hear they saying that they're developing some areas, turning it into a business center. So if all of a sudden you should have let's say for example a whole heap of plaza start to build at a particular area, then that is what is known as industrialization. Simply because a whole lot of business will be there with a wholesale supermarket or factory. Right. Once you have a lot of business being built within a short period of time, then we call that industrialization. And what they are saying is that these normally the main causes for land pollution, and that is simply because of the large amount of individuals or persons that will be in that environment. And most of the times within those environment, I mean the facilities that they have in place to actually take care of these ways most time basically not adequate enough. Right, so you have they might bill it to, let's say for example, take care of 10,000 persons, and within a short period of time that 10,000 persons just increase, and there's no development or improvement as for those facilities. So they basically become or get overwork. Alright, so they are now saying causes. Right, so causes of land pollution. So what are some of the causes? What are some things that basically normally cause this land pollution to take place? Alright, so four main causes they are saying construction. Right, so if you have a whole heap of construction taking place, at times those companies have a tendency of not getting rid of their garbage or their waste. Agriculture, and would have looked at agriculture we look at how it affect the water. You know, as for agriculture and the land pollution now. So for example, you have cane being harvest. If the trash is not burned, then that can cause land pollution. So that's what they mean. So whenever these agricultural persons do their harvesting in terms of reaping the waste, they're supposed to dispose of it properly and don't just leave it around the place, because having a whole lot of trash and around the place can cause um, breeding, can create a breeding space for rats and all those nuisance Industrial waste, they are saying that that is also um, a main cause of land pollution. So those four causes, they are really straightforward, and of course, if you research more, you will find more causes, because of course there are more causes. So in terms of the construction, on they are saying, so buildings take up resources and land. The trees are basically chopped down and used to make building. So they are saying takes away the place for animal and other organism to live. Right. So you know sometimes you have open areas where animals normally feed. Right. So but because there's construction going on, then those animals have to migrate or find somewhere else to actually go. Alright. So as for the agriculture now, so as there are more and more people inhabiting Earth. So inhabiting mean living on Earth. As more and more people start to come on Earth, food is in higher demand, right? So people want more food, and they are saying that the forest now they are now chopped down and turned into farmland, right? So rather than having those natural forests, they are chopped down and turned into farmland. Now, in addition to that, now they are saying that herbicide, pesticides, artificial fertilizer, animal manure are washed into the soil and pollute it. Right. So sometimes persons might use fertilizer at a particular location, but once it washed to another one, it might be harmful for those plants, because not every plant use the same fertilizer. So it all depends on what crop you're actually looking at. Alright, for the domestic, no, domestic is basically waste that come, like for example from a small community. So that's what they mean by domestic. So domestic basically mean waste that comes from individuals. So like individual house. That's anything that comes from an individual house. That's what they call domestic. That's where the term domestic come into play. Things that actually comes from individual house. So, like for example, water that comes from the bathroom, water that comes from the kitchen, water come from the shower. All those are what are known as domestic waste. The and garbage in terms of plastic bags, and garbage in terms of old refrigerator, old machine, old stove. All those are examples of domestic waste. So any waste that you produce at your house or at your home, that is what literal would normally describe or call domestic waste. So there's a difference between domestic waste and industrial waste. As industrial waste have to do with factories and business, while domestic have to do with individual house, individual home, individual community. Alright, so and to the industrial one now, and as you can now, and the image that they are showing, they are actually showing a whole lot of barrels, and having such large amount of barrels simply mean that this must be, let's say for example, an oil company, right, or some company where import a whole lot of chemicals to use in their production. So these barrels, imagine a company getting hundreds of these barrels every month. Where they're gonna store those? So they, because of the lack of storage, are they not finding anybody to purchase them? Then just basically throw them on an open land, and that will cause the land pollution. So they are saying that chemical plants and oil refinery, nuclear waste disposal activity, large animal farms, all those not are produce what we call industrial waste. All of those.
Sir, what is coal fire power plants?
Coal fire power plant. All right. A power plant is talking about electricity. That's what they mean by the power plant. But as for the coal fire, now coal is a form of gas. So what it means is that in order for that company to produce electricity, it uses a form of gas that is known as coal, which only used in some countries. It is used in United States, but some countries actually classify it as something that produce a whole lot of waste or toxic materials. So it is not widely used anymore. But coal is actually it is a form of chemical that give energy. Just like how in Jamaica JPS uses oil, like for example 90. That is the oil that JPS used to run their turbine. In other countries they would use coal. So coal is a energy source. Is a form of oil that they use to power the turbine that produce the electricity. All right, students. So in terms of pollution, we have the noise one, which by now persons should be familiar with noise pollution. Once you're making too much noise, then basically you're contributing to what is called noise pollution. And as for noise pollution, again, as persons go in areas like, for example, mountain or in some deep woodland and gully, if you should just stop for a while and listen, you realize that you're not hearing anything apart from the trees and the birds and whichever creatures within that environment. But once you're in area where there is a lot of persons, then you're basically hearing all type of noise. You hear vehicle a pass, music a play, all type of noise. So those are, of course, noise pollutants. So noise pollution is excessive. So that means that it is too much. Understand? Displeasing human, animal, or machine created environmental noise that disrupt the activity or balance of human or animal life. Say at school, for example, and a truck is passing and a bike passing and they're making so much noise. That is noise pollution because the fact that they are disturbing, they are interrupting the class mean that it is actually causing pollution in terms of noise. And they say that that is whenever it is in excess. So that means excessive mean that too much, it's just too much. So yes, for those persons who ride the bike, yes, they can ride the bike, but in terms of revving it and all of those, that is in excess. So that contribute to what is known as noise pollution. All right. So in terms of the notes, so we would have gone straight up to noise pollution. We look at water pollution, land pollution, air pollution. Right. So please go through the notes because sometime next week I'm not sure as to which one of the class. Right. I will be posting. Well, maybe from Monday morning. So I'm not sure if I will finish by then. I will actually post a test in the Google Classroom platform for persons to complete. Now, for those persons who are having problem with the Google platform, then you would have to indicate to me so I can find another way to ensure that you actually get the
When, sir?
sometime next week. As time goes by, you will know when. But prepare yourself, have it in your mind to get a graded test sometime next week, because you would have completed 1 month today.
Sir,
Yes, Mackenzie.
you see Wi-Fi up here, I know they no pixie, so the Google Classroom now work.
Oh, where is that? Where is that?
I get to go to work.
Where?
Matney.
Matney. Oh, they stole the cable up there.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so you normally get from.
Some mediator
Oh, so a flow you not.
canal.
Okay, so a flow you normally get it from.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow. Well, I hope you get. Well, I will find somewhere to ensure that I get it. So, but I'm gonna give you on the WhatsApp and your download it and but I will ensure that you get it in some format so you can do it so you get a grade. Alright, and so please indicate in the WhatsApp group that you're present because population for the class really small because I'm what 8 persons online. Really small. Alright, so students that's it. So the notes I post the picture version in the WhatsApp so you can write the notes in what.
Sir,
Yes, Mackenzie.
every note we are sending, we have to draw a picture where
No,
we are sending it.
no, you don't have to draw the picture. You don't have to draw the picture. Don't. Let's say, for example, we're looking at the human heart, for example, and there, I mean, is a.
Sir, what if I know what's happening? I'm tired.
You know, say, I
Sir,
will,
actually, I have everything.
repeat, but
Sir,
it's
typing off everything.
no problem. But remember that you can download them and save them on your phone or some device. Eh.
Sir, we have storage problems, sir.
But I have storage
The
problem.
management of storage problem. Thank you, sir. Me only one was my mother here, so I can't save you. Me not for right now.
No, I never see. You don't want, you mustn't write anything, you know. The reason why I mentioned downloading is that you're talking about time. So if you don't have the time, you download them until.
Sir, I rather to write them more than save it, sir.
Well, no problem. Well, for me, the important thing is that you study and you know the content, you know.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, Miss.
Sir,
Yes, Miss. I'm hearing you, Miss.
if Crystal cannot find the information when Crystal ready to study, you see, sir,
Yes, Miss.
are you want Crystal, me I go blame, cause me tell Crystal to write and you will give Crystal an excuse not to write.
No, Miss. That you're
No,
not
me not
listening.
right
You're
now.
not hearing what I'm saying. No. She talk about the fact that it's a lot of notes, so I told her to download it until she have the time to write it. That's what I said. All right, so students, so I'll see you for the next class. So please have a productive day and get ready for your next class.
Yes, sir.